Welcome to the Journey to Wellness podcast, sponsored by the Essential Wellness Society and Healing Wheel Holistic. I'm Melissa Stonehill-Kyam, and I will be your host. With over 40 years' experience in the health and fitness industry, I am ready to dive in to some of the most conflicting topics we have regards to health today. Let's go. Welcome back to the Journey to Wellness podcast. I'm here today with my friend, Kelly Calabrese, who is an amazing woman with a laundry list of credentials. I'm loving this book. It's called Nutrition Diagnostics-Healing through Empowerment. And in there, I'm just going to read straight from here. So her education and experience, she's got over 35 years in health and fitness and wellness, and very much science-based. We were chit-chatting a little bit about some things that we both experienced, having been personal trainers, been inside the gym, being around all the bro science, as we refer to it, and then making sense of the real science and really trying to help people. One of the things that I respect and admire about Kelly's practice is that everything she does involves lab testing. And why I like the lab testing is because your labs don't lie. Like, you can be in a situation where you think you're doing the right thing, right? But your blood tells you otherwise. So a lot of people don't understand the concept of blood labs, and I think a lot of that is because when you go for a regular physical, you're going to get a different type of panel. You have to ask for a nutrition panel. You even have to ask for a vitamin D panel, which is super important to know.
Yep.
But the other things that you're investigating and you're checking out for people are just not the typical blood panel markers. So I'd like you to, talk a little bit about how you got into this and briefly kind of describe what landed you on the aha moment of labs, got to do labs, got to check labs before, definitely writing the right program for somebody.
So I've been a big promoter of diagnostic testing my whole life. And I was a sick little girl going in and out of doctors, and they would all say, it's all in your head, go home. And it was crazy for me. Then the next doctor to tell me that was all in my head, I was going to strangle him. And so it was my journey as a youth, as a young teenager, was to go and find out why I was having the health disorders I was having. I was able to research, and back then in the 70s, we didn't have computers, we had encyclopedias. So I started studying different encyclopedias and coming up with what my diagnosis was, which was a blood sugar disorder. And I went down the path to clarify and rectify that by exercising and eating right and doing all that. And so, of course, a career is born in personal training world. And then later on, while I'm a thriving personal trainer in Colorado Springs, I was with my ski race team in Europe, and we were on a practice race course, and one of my teammates took me out at 30 miles an hour.
Oh, geez.
And I suffered a traumatic brain injury. And then I had to figure out, I was so broken, I had to figure out, again, what's wrong now. And so now I'm researching on the computer. And I was able to, I went through the traditional system where they were doing testing, but all they were doing was pumping me with drugs, and that wasn't working. And so I was able to find the right path with the right people to do more of the alternative therapies, nutrient support systems, detox therapies. And that's really what brought me back, was doing some lifestyle changes, and really the detox component was a big one. And then the nutrient support with different homeopathics and herbals was how I was able to get back. And that's how I ended up in this field. And another career is born. And I've been doing clinical nutrition and functional medicine for 19 years already.
It's really interesting to me because we have a very good medical system as far as treating heart disease and open heart surgeries and
Trauma
the
care.
surgical procedures, right?
Yeah, trauma care.
The trauma care is great. But I've often wondered why we aren't moving more towards root causes.
Prevention and proactive care.
Yeah.
There's no money in getting well. There's no money in getting well. So the system is going to keep their deep pockets. They're going to keep people down the rabbit hole. They're going to keep people on medications and taking body parts they shouldn't be taking. No, there's no money in getting well. So it's up to the consumer, the individual, to educate themselves, get online, research, and find the right person for you to get well.
And it's interesting. So I'm reading topics to present. It says thyroid disorders due to pesticide exposure.
Yeah.
So each one of these topics, there's about 15 topics here. Immunocompromised due to nutrient deficiency, adrenal fatigue due to stress. Now right there, adrenal fatigue due to stress, and a lot of people don't understand how serious adrenal fatigue is. And what's stress to one person may not be stress to another, right?
Right.
And the reason I stop on that is because when I had a corporate nutrition job, we used to do saliva testing for cortisol, right? Because cortisol rises and falls, and blood cortisol really doesn't tell the whole picture. But what a lot of people don't realize is that it's all this symphony. So, for instance, if you're low on testosterone, your adrenals might take over. If you're low on adrenals, your sex hormones might take over. It's like flip-flop, right? And they all are working together.
Yep.
And what are some of the symptoms that you see with people with adrenal fatigue?
Oh, everything. Weight issues, cognitive issues, sexual dysfunction, hair falling out, nails breaking, you name it. The adrenals, sleep disorders like you wouldn't believe, and they have to do CBD oil and everything. Really, the adrenals operate everything. And if your adrenals are out of balance, that means your blood sugar, your glucose is out of balance. And those two need to be in balance together. And actually, the entire endocrine system needs to be balanced. So the endocrine system is just like a baseball team. You have 9 players on the baseball team. All 9 players need to play together to win that game. Same thing with our endocrine, our hormone system. All 9 hormones need to be supported as one unit in order to win the game.
So I like the way you put that. And I was thinking, this is my personal opinion, professional opinion. I feel like the adrenal stresses start the second your kid has to make the school bell. I mean, we start to stress our kids out at such an early age where they should just kind of be like flowing through life. All of a sudden, we need to get to work. The school bus is coming. Brush your teeth. Do this. Do you have this? Grab your backpack. Then they're rushing off, and maybe they're got breakfast in their mouth as they're getting to the school bus. And then we hear, oh, your kid's acting out, right? And if you ever walk down a cereal aisle,
Too much sugar.
Oh my God, not even that. Too much sugar, the GMOs and the food dyes.
Yeah.
It's the food.
It's our food that's promoting a lot of diseases. But really, children's stress disorder is starting in the womb. So what happens is when the mother has a faulty endocrine system, faulty hormone, has imbalances, what happens in the 3rd trimester, the mother starts taking the adrenals from the baby because the mother does not have good adrenals. And so when the mother is in her 3rd trimester, the adrenals are being taken from the baby. So when the baby's born, the baby's already at a deficit. And that's why we have so many health disorders with young children.
Wow.
Because of that. That's one reason. Yep.
That's unbelievable. Like, I had never heard that before. Yep. And it really does make sense to me. I can see that that's a possibility. And our generation, I don't know about your mom, but my mom was asleep when I was born. They used to put women to sleep. I can't even imagine, like, you putting drugs into a person's body while they're giving birth.
Yeah, my mom, she was in labor 24 hours with me. So she was not asleep. She would have done a C-section if she had that choice. But yeah.
But there's trauma.
There's a lot of trauma.
There's
I mean,
trauma
I was
there.
Born in my 7th month. So I lived in an incubator for 5 weeks.
Intense.
Yeah.
So I almost feel like now you're talking in utero.
Yeah, that's
so
what
they're
starts
in utero, then birth, and then as we grow up and develop, we have all this stuff in their environment. These kids today are born around a lot of electromagnetic field that wasn't as big when I was a child.
Right,
I
right.
played outside a lot. Kids are with tablets and computers, and at school, things have moved away from books into smart boards and things of that nature.
And the chemicals that we have, we're inundated with hundreds of chemicals a day.
So here's a question I get asked a lot. So let's say somebody goes through a detox. Maybe they're detoxing metals from tissues or different
Pesticides.
organs, whatever,
Yeah.
you know. How long does that last? Do they have to keep repeating it?
Yeah.
Can they ever be in a homeostasis of having a clean system?
No, unfortunately, in this day and age, with our poisonous food and our poisonous water and our poisonous air and all the EMF waves and just all the different chemicals, the petrochemicals, pesticides, organic solvents, heavy metals, we are just so inundated. We can get ourselves into a clean state, but then we have to do maintenance, and maintenance requires more detox. But maintenance with my patients is going to be the detox clay baths, and then the products that I give my patients already have a built-in drainage. It already has a component in the supplements to activate the lymphatic system to detoxify the body.
Now, would you say, okay, so you mentioned certain types of baths, which
Yep.
are great. You know, having like a self-care day anyway is good for anybody.
Yep.
Certain supplementation,
Yep.
but that can't be done without following up on eating differently and exercising.
Well, you absolutely have to eat differently. You have to eat organic, non-GMO, gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, corn-free. And if you go to Europe, you can have dairy and you can have wheat. I mean, you can have those things if you go someplace else. But here in the Americas, North America and South America are so poisoned. Our government has poisoned our foods, and we can't get around it. And this is why we have a lot of health issues, of all sorts of health issues.
Well, it's interesting what you say about soy, though, because I was studying breast cancer and you know, the women of Okinawa, which we know are some of the longest living women on the planet and the lowest rate of breast cancer. Now, tofu is a staple in their diet, and edamame is a staple. So is fish, so is taking naps, and so is eating with family,
Yep.
right? And walking. Walking is a huge part of their culture. So so that's soy-based.
Yeah, but they don't have GMO soy. I'm talking about here in this country.
But we can get organic, no?
Yeah, I mean, you can. Everything's cross-contaminated. That's the other thing that we have to look out for. That even when you eat organic, it's cross-contaminated. We just can't get around it. Our foods are poisonous.
Well,
we're
if
gonna
we
have to
could
do
grow
more.
our own,
Yeah, if we can grow our
which
own.
is really hard here in Colorado. I try, and my seasons
Yeah.
are so short.
Well, that's where a greenhouse come in. But then the greenhouse takes a lot of upkeep.
Right, but that's a good alternative, right?
Yeah,
So I feel like we're needing to go back to simplicity.
yeah.
And this is also when we talk about how to be your own best detective. What does that mean?
So that's when you start researching online, you educate yourself, you start reading a lot of different websites, and a lot of people will go to my website and they'll contact me because they want that 80 marker blood test. You never get an 80 marker blood test with a doctor. And of course, anybody reading a blood test, it's based on their viewpoint. And so when I'm reading that blood test, I'm reading it for functionality, not pathology. So I'm not reading the blood test for a certain drug or a certain surgery. I'm looking at the root cause, and the reason why it's 80 markers, I'm able to see all those toxic exposures and all those nutrient deficits.
Do you also do food sensitivity in there?
Food sensitivity, heavy metal testing, mold testing, plastic testing, glyphosate, GMO testing, you name the testing, saliva testing for hormones, you name it, I do all the testing.
So this is really, really interesting too, because let's say somebody they have an awareness and they want to switch their diet. They have an awareness, they know that there's neurotoxins used in strawberries, and they're like, oh, I don't want that, I'm going to only buy organic. And they start to switch over, starting with the Dirty Dozen,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
How long does it take to get that other junk out of your body?
It's up to each person, and really it's the level of exposure. So if you have a lot of heavy metals in your body, whether you have had a lot of vaccines or you have a lot of mercury fillings in your mouth, which are those silver fillings, if you have a lot of heavy metals in your body, heavy metals are much heavier than pesticides or petrochemicals or bacterial, viral, fungal, parasitic. So what happens, the heavy metals will block the other lighter exposures. So that's why it's important to really address the heavy metals first. And I have a heavy metal cleanse detox program in my with my business.
So it's interesting with the heavy metals because I don't think people realize what kind of metals are going into cloud seeding.
Yeah.
And that's in the environment.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying we are environmentally and biophysiologically impacted, and people don't realize. Like, you can't see mold. Mold is so lethal. Heavy metals are so lethal. Mercury is so lethal neurotoxin. Right. These are all neurotoxins that are very lethal, and people don't even recognize that that's a serious issue until they end up with an autoimmune disease, or they have neuropathy, or they can't walk anymore. People in this country, they're not trained to do prevention and proactive care. So once they're always behind the 8 ball. So if people would just recognize that if they can just start out being proactive and doing the prevention at a younger age or earlier, because you're going to pay in the front end or the back end, pay in the front end. It'll be less money, less time, less energy. The back end, it's going to be so much more difficult to catch up and be well. So, people are like, well, how much does it cost? Well, it doesn't cost that much. $300 a month is not a lot of money to get well. It's just not a lot of money to get well. And, if people have health savings or medical savings accounts, that insurance, that's their insurance, it'll pay for everything. It'll pay for the testing. It'll pay for the services.
You're talking about like a flex spending account type of thing?
It pays for everything. It pays for the supplements. It pays for everything. And so people just need to, I say to people, you can come up with the money somehow. If you're on Medicaid, I can understand that may not be a possibility for you. But if you have flex spending, or if you're working a job and you have insurance, you'll be able to pay for these services. I always say to people, just don't take your vacation this year. Get well and take your vacation next year. You'll enjoy it a lot better because you'll feel better to enjoy your vacation.
So but there's so much in this book.
Yeah, it's
so
action-packed.
People can really learn about the book. Mm-hmm. And it's unfortunate that being healthy or making healthier choices costs the public more money. And I'm not talking about your services. I'm talking about, like, if I want to go buy a bell pepper and I'm going for an organic one as opposed to a conventional one, the conventional one's 99 cents. The organic one's $2.49. So I can decide, I'm not going to use peppers anymore. I can grow my own. Or what a lot of people do is, I'm just going to buy the 99-cent pepper.
But then they're going to have the pesticide exposure. It's going to cost them more money to get back.
Right.
I always say when you buy organic, you don't have to eat as much organic because you have more nutrients. If you buy the pesticide exposure, the less expensive pepper, well, you're going to have to eat more of it to get the nutrition that you would get with the organic. So in a way, you're saving your money by buying organic because you're not eating as much.
So I love to cook. So I invested in really expensive cookware that's made out of titanium. And before I bought this, they did this water testing of different types of pots you can cook in. And literally you can taste the metal in the water. In the titanium, I couldn't taste anything. Right. But it also is like a pressure cooker top. And it was really blew my mind because when I cooked in the titanium, you cook with a lower heat because it heats up better. The reduction of my food was less. I filled it up with vegetables. I took the lid off and it was filled with vegetables. It didn't cook down.
Right.
So I think investing in really good cookware is going to also extend that, as well as, let's say you get really beautiful organic produce and you're cooking it in aluminum.
Right. You don't want to cook any aluminum.
Right.
No non-stick surfaces. No non-stick surfaces because it's very toxic.
How many people do you think cook?
Everybody
because
does.
It's everywhere, right?
So stainless steel, titanium, those are good. If people are anemic, they can cook a little bit in iron pots. But
that's a thing people don't realize. So if, for instance, you don't need iron, and you cook in iron,
Yeah.
you're getting way too much iron.
Exactly. They have to
And
watch
that's not good for you.
No, it's not.
Then you're over iron.
Yep.
And then you get
A lot of problems. A lot of health problems.
problems
Yep.
with that.
Yep.
I love all the things that you're covering. These are very deep dive types of circumstances and things to think about. Now, one of the other things I loved in the book was how you totally blew up macros and micros. If you don't know what macronutrients are, they're your proteins, your fats, your carbohydrates, right? You and I both agree that Americans are so over-proteined.
Yep.
And there's no cases of anyone that's had a protein deficiency disease.
Right.
But on the flip side, talk about what too much protein causes.
Well, it's going to cause kidney disease, for one thing. Can't overdo the protein. And also, the protein that we're eating in this country, there's a lot of xenoestrogen exposures. Those are the hormones. Those are the pesticides, hormones, antibiotics that are in the meats. And that's in all the meats. And farm-raised meats like salmon, those are going to be GMO. GMO is not good because it's a Bt bacterium that's injected, and that bacterium lives in your gut and will destroy your digestive system. So a lot of people don't realize that when they get the diagnosis that they have cancer, they don't realize that the reason why they have cancer is because of that extra estrogen, that xenoestrogen exposure due to so many different things, not just the meats, pesticides, petrochemicals, organic solvents. So people need to understand that if they're going to eat meat, they need to reduce their meat intake, do more fruits and vegetables, which people are not doing, and really really address why they're having the cancer in the first place. And really it's toxic exposure, because all cancer is an organized attempt to survive a toxic load. That's all cancer is.
So when the whole CrossFit started, all the CrossFitters were following a diet that was a heavy carnivorous diet.
Yeah.
Right? And I started to have young clients come to me with fatty liver disease. They told me that they had a fatty liver. And remember that diet that was like eat like a caveman, the hunt and gather, that type thing. So they're eating like a ton of fats and meats.
Like keto, the keto diet.
I guess that's what you would call it.
Yeah.
But I just can't even imagine anyone being able to get a good lift without a good amount of carbs.
Yeah, I mean, you want to be balanced. I mean, that's what we're here for. We're made to be balanced.
You need fiber. You need a certain amount of complex carbohydrates.
Yep.
Whether it's in your broccoli or your sweet potato or something like that. But the recommendation that they're giving in sports nutrition in the books is way over the top when it comes to your protein needs.
Yeah.
And it really blows me away because people follow it because that's the science, and you can't even get the certificate unless you get the answer right and pass the test. But as nutritionists, we know that causes so much acid in the body, and cancer cells can only live in an acid environment. They can't live in an alkaline environment.
So acid and anaerobics. So you've just listed 2 of the 6 fundamental defects for disease of how I help the reader read their own blood chemistry based on those 6 fundamental defects for disease. So when your blood chemistry is in acid state and you're in an anaerobic metabolism state, that means without oxygen. So the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell, is not getting enough oxygen to produce energy to do the functions of the body. Then you'll have chronic inflammation, oxidative stress, and this will end up eventually being cancer, cardiac disease, diabetes,
fibromyalgia,
autoimmune
fibromyalgia,
all it's all.
And I'm not free from all of it, and I do my best. And I agree with you. That's like looking at your car. You have a beautiful car, it drives well, but you don't know how to upkeep it. You don't know what's going on. You don't get diagnostics. You don't rotate your tires. Everyone takes care of their car better than they take care of their body. That's kind of what I was getting at.
Because they have to go to work and they have to pay their bills, but they don't understand that their car, the first and foremost is your body, your domicile. If you don't keep your body in shape, nothing else is going to work in your life.
So this book is super information packed, very scientific, And this is part of why nutritionists are so important. And somebody asked me why I didn't become an RD, and I'm not putting down registered dietitians by any means whatsoever, but I am not a fan of the curriculum. So the curriculum is written by the government, and it goes, so it's compliant with whatever the food pyramid is of that decade, and gives you the information based on government standards, whereas holistic nutrition is a whole other direction, because it's really going deep into primal needs of the body and detoxifications and food dyes and sugars and all of the things like everything that could affect you.
So the registered dietitian world, which I went through registered dietitian school, they're educating us on hospital modalities and methods. And really, registered dietitian is just an extension of the traditional based system, and that they take insurance, but they're not trained in getting to the root cause. They're not trained in the application of preventive medicine. And that's the difference between a board-certified clinical nutritionist like myself and a registered dietitian. Now, in this country, we have registered dietitians who are also CCNs, and putting those two together makes that person more powerful. But I can tell you, with my profession, I have more autonomy. I don't have to follow the medical guidelines as far as the strict, stringent guidelines that the American Medical Associations place on registered dietitians. And so I'm able to do more of that prevention, more of that proactive care, and have the autonomy to help my patients heal in a very natural way with homeopathic herbal support, detox therapies. And that's really what it is. That's all I do, is offer nutrient support systems and detox therapies to help my patients get off their medications so they can live a vibrant life, pain-free, surgery-free, disease-free, and hospital-free.
So how can it even be better, right? Pain-free, disease-free, hospital-free. I love this book. Where do people get this book?
So you can get this book personally from me, or go to my website, which is optimalwellnessllc.com, and you can just purchase my book on my website. And
we're going to have a link for that in the bio. So I'm really excited about this. And then this would be in conjunction with you teaching the consumer how to be their best detective.
Yes.
And you said something that I hope everybody caught, is that you're not having people rely on you. What you're doing is you're teaching people to read their own labs. You're teaching people to monitor themselves. So you're really educating them.
And empowering them. That's why it's called Healing Through Empowerment.
So I just love that so much, because when people, I used to like to say that I had a revolving door business, is that my greatest goal is that you don't need me anymore.
Right.
And that you're just good to go. So is there anything else that you would love to share?
All I have is 2 programs. Well, I have 3, because one's on my website. I actually have my nutrition diagnostic course on my website with my video and my manual and my PowerPoints. But my 2 services that I offer is a 1 hour where we go over your 3-day food journal. We talk about the foods to eat, foods to avoid, the poisonous foods. I give a 28 recipe meal plan. We talk about your health concerns. And then I go into detail about the fundamental defects for disease. And then my second program is just a 6-month program. It's with the blood test, the 80-marker blood test, and that would include the evaluation analysis, your 30-page report, your big consult, and all your follow-up consults.
And you can service people all over the world, right?
Well, all over the country. The reason why I can't all over the world is because the products that I offer my patients, which are medical grade, you have to be licensed to have these products. You can't send these products overseas.
So you can't ship them?
No, because there's some kind of law, or I don't know what it is. But I do work with people all over the country.
Okay. So we're really lucky to have you today. I could have talked to you for hours and hours, because this is just, this is exciting to me, and I always learn new things. And, even though I'm a nutritionist, I'm not the best coach for myself, and I know
Right.
that I can do better. We can always do better. But I wanted to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule. And I know it's a really busy day today. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And we are recording from the Treehouse in Colorado Springs. It's a phenomenal holistic cafe, and this has been sponsored by the Essential Wellness Society and Healing Wheel Holistic. Thank you so much, and see you next time.